Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
What's going on, guys? Great to be back. Episode 10 already. Time is absolutely flying.
It's crazy. I'm super excited, and I'm glad that we started the show. It feels like yesterday that we just started
literally.
it as well. But that's good. That means we're super pumped. Battlefield 2042 is ever moving closer. And today we're going to be talking about Kimble, Irish Graves, and kind of the details around his character, what we think his character is going to be, and kind of the broader scope of how he's going to be fitting into Battlefield 2042. So let's jump right into things. Okay, so I'm not going to lie. I was confused about his character when it got revealed, but then I was super hyped. I was like, oh my gosh, Battlefield 4, awesome.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock. I remember like I did it like a reaction to the short film, and it took me a minute. Like I knew it was him straight away, but then I was like second guessing myself. I was like, oh, actually, is that him? And I was kind of confused with the timeline. And I also thought, like, because of the ending of Battlefield 4, obviously there's like you make the decision, but I couldn't remember if you make the decision or if he actually just dies. So then I was like, okay, I'm not sure if that's actually him. But once it clicked, it was definitely very exciting to see. Probably one of the fan favorites coming back.
And the deep pool of the dinosaur as well. Like, I was super confused, and I think a lot of people didn't realize it until I saw it later, and it was like, oh, okay. The dinosaur is one of the I don't know, like little tchotchkes that is hanging in against the rearview mirror in one of the trucks that they drive.
Yeah. I remember the Easter egg from. I think it was also even in. They've had dinosaurs for some reason in like heaps of them, but I think that was in Battlefield 4, and then they've had even some other dinosaur related stuff, maybe in Battlefield 3 as well. It's a weird little.
It's
kind of like the Megalodon thing where it's just like a recurring theme.
Yeah. So it took me a while, and then I think it was either Kevin or Freeman posted it on Twitter, and I was like, okay, I got this now. I remember seeing this, but I never really like connected it.
Yeah.
But like also, why is that thing in the water? Is it just like a super popular thing? Everyone has them in Battlefield.
Yeah, it's definitely, when you start to think about it a bit, it's like, okay, what the hell? Like, why is that going on?
Yeah. But yeah, it's super cool to see this kind of like deep cut. It's like it's them saying, hey, Battlefield fans, we know what you guys want. We know how hyped you are, and we kind of want to include some of those things in the game and bring some characters back. Also, these guys aged incredibly well. For 20 years' time, like, man, they're looking good. I want to know what kind of like lotions and exfoliating rubs they use.
Yeah, I feel like Pac didn't age one single day, and then Irish's only like aging is just the beard, but his face looks exactly the same.
Rest in peace, Pac. Rest in peace. They did us dirty with his death.
Yeah.
I saw in my reaction video that I did, one of the guys in the comments was like, come on, guys, please. Why'd you have to do that to us?
They pulled at our heartstrings by bringing him back, and then like 5 minutes later, he's just dead again. And it's like, okay, that was short-lived.
We will regret that decision. But hey, child didn't get killed, but honestly. True. But Pac, man, rest in peace, dude.
Rip.
You could have been the game too, but they needed only one.
Yep. That would have been pretty cool, actually, to see Pac make it eventually too.
Really? Yeah. I think it would have it would be cool to see how kind of like their friendship and their abilities would pair up with each other too, because I think that they would have like really filled in the gaps of each other's characters.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see kind of what goes down later on. I wonder if we'll see any more like deeper cuts on that, like if we see maybe one of the characters in Bad Company or I don't know, like even Hardline possibly. Like, I think there is some space to do that, depending on, the Battlefield cinematic universe.
Yeah, they need to definitely coin that now, because that's definitely what it's going to turn out to be, I think.
So, I mean, they don't really care about timelines, honestly, because of how, like, young they all look, but they're playing around with it just a little bit. I think they retconned it to be Battlefield 4 to be a lot later on, because I think Was it Battlefield 4 that was in the 2020s as well?
Yeah, I think it was set in 2020, I'm pretty sure. But, judging by their age, it's kind of hard to tell if that's true or not.
So yeah, but I do think it'd be cool to have like some of those older characters, even like some super deep cuts. I think there is some space for that in this game, and like it's set up perfectly to bring back those characters as well. Like they've already showed that they're willing to bring back some deep cuts, and I think they could go even deeper.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see what they end up doing with it.
But now let's kind of talk about some of the details that they've given us around Kimble Irish Graves. I still don't know where the Irish comes from, but maybe he just really likes pubs.
That could be it.
So I think the biggest thing, let's start with his ability kind of overview on that. He's got a trait called Veteran, which provides armor and additional bonuses from downed enemies. And then the big thing is the fortification system. It includes the DCS deployable cover to protect from bullets and explosives, and the APS 36 shoot down sentinel to take down explosive projectiles. So right off the bat, strong character. Before we started recording, we're talking kind of stay tuned to Sammy's channel because he's going to have a detailed breakdown on kind of the ways that this character could be overpowered for sure, but let's jump right into that.
Yeah, it's curious. Like, I'm curious to see how they balance it, because with that, like, the sort of armor stuff, that could end up being a little bit overpowered, or not so much overpowered, but just a lot of people in the community were kind of like really confused by it, because, and rightly so, because it doesn't feel like specialists should change the time to kill. If one character has more health than the rest, that kind of feels a bit like, again, not OP, because it could just be in the gameplay little clips that we've seen. It looked like he only had an extra 10 health. Like, it had his health, and then there was a little bar above that was blue, and it just said 10 while his health said 100. So an extra 10 health isn't drastic, obviously, but if that's going to stop you from, a one-shot headshot, for example, with a sniper, then those small little differences could be, I guess, a little bit, there could be a bit of drama there, because, it doesn't feel like the specialists should be able to affect the time to kill. It feels like they should all have the same amount of health, and then the only difference really should be their abilities and their gadgets and stuff. Just to... keep it with it. Because, like, if he's stronger and then he's also got good abilities, then it just feels like he's going to be sort of the meta. Like, everyone's just going to be running around as him. So, definitely intrigued by it. But at the same time, we haven't really seen it in action yet. So, it's a bit too early to judge. I don't want to start, like, complaining, because, I'm sure they'll balance it out as they need to. But, it was just a bit interesting, I guess, to see that.
Yeah, like it's kind of going back to some previous conversations we had on the podcast when we did our specific broader specialist episode. We were talking about how much of a harder task it's going to be to balance everything, because previously they had only the 4 classes that they had to balance the weapons and abilities for, and we saw kind of how that went with if there was a known overpowered character, and like even with just the 4 there was, like, people would play medic just so they could have the weapons and the abilities of medic, and not really play for the support aspects of the character, like specifically for the weapons and the abilities. And like taking that to a further scale with this game, we've got the specialist, which even takes it further. It's not really based on the weapons, because you can have any weapon with any of the specialists, but those abilities are definitely going to be something that I think, I mean, like you said, he could be very he's already overpowered with his fortification system and knocking down grenades.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't even really need... I would rather him have less health, honestly, with those fortification systems already.
Yeah, the weird part about it too is that, at least as far as we know, none of the others have 2, like, gadgets, but he has 2. So that's just kind of... He has more health and an extra gadget. That does just seem a little bit overpowered on paper. That said, deployable cover is not going to be, it's not like he's got the turret, say, of Boris, where that actually deals damage and stuff. Deployable cover is technically just like a pretty passive thing. So I understand maybe in terms of the gameplay, maybe those gadgets will end up being not that useful, and maybe that's why they've given him 2, just because they're not probably as good as the rest.
Yeah.
But in saying that, the shoot down sentinel, if you're playing, like, I know for me, I love playing the objective and like getting right in there on the bombs and stuff. If I can run in there, put down cover, put down that, and then, you know, plant the bomb on rush, for example, and then no one can throw a grenade at me, like, that's going to be a bit of a mess, I think. So it's going to be, I'm kind of weird, like, kind of intrigued to see how it pans out and whether they need to balance it or whether they've given him 2 because, maybe they're just not that good. Maybe the cover gets destroyed in, you know, a full clip from someone, or maybe the Sentinel only has 3 uses. I know, like, the trophy systems in Call of Duty, they only usually get, like, 3 times of actually blowing up an explosive and then they just break. So they can balance it out that way and stuff like that. But, at least on paper, like, at first glance, you kind of look at it and you're like, wow, this seems a bit weird.
I mean, like you said, I'd probably say the majority of times I get killed is people either chucking a grenade randomly or me running into a building trying to capture the objective and then just disappearing. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm honestly going to be really drawn to Graves' character and Boris. I think I'm going to really enjoy that turret that he has. Just because, like, it's probably one of my favorite parts of, like, kind of tie in Battlefront 2 a little bit. Battlefront 2, I loved even Battlefront 2015. I love that turret, man. It helped with capturing the objective or defending a point. Yeah,
it's really good to, like, it's almost like you get to be in 2 places at once because you can put it, like, to lock down a hallway to your right, for example, and then you can, like, go to the other little hallway and sort of, like, protect both areas at once. So I think Boris is going to be a lot of fun to play. I hope it's not overpowered in the end, but
dude, just imagine the pairing up of a squad with Graves and Boris. Like, oh, man, no one's coming anywhere near you.
If you've got, like, say there's, like, an objective and then there's 3, like, directions you can get into that room from, and then you've got deployable cover in one section with Irish just standing there, like, mowing you down behind the cover. On the other one, you've got Boris's turret, and then on the other one, you've got Boris, and Irish has put down his shoot down sentinel, and you've just got 3, like, immovable objects just sort of sitting there. It's gonna be mental.
I don't know if we've got confirmation of this, but you can have any specialist pairing, right? Like, you could all be Graves in a squad. Like, they aren't limiting on that.
I believe
front,
so.
Right?
They haven't confirmed that, but just looking by, like, when we've seen gameplay. Looking at the little, like, pictures in the bottom left, it seems like you can have multiple, but it could end up doing something like Apex where you're only, you're in the squad and then you just have to pick your character, and then let's just say we're playing and you pick Boris, then I have to pick someone else. So that would be kind of like, on one hand, it would be cool to just be able to play whoever, but I actually wouldn't be against that either if it's kind of like...
it would definitely help with balance.
Yeah, because that's kind of the thing that I like about Apex is, like, you can't just be good at one character, because if someone takes that character, then it's like, okay, I've got to play someone else. So, I'm not sure which I'd prefer. I think I'd be happy with both. But, that's kind of an interesting thought, and we haven't really heard it confirmed as far as I know.
I could see it being something that they force. I mean, they're already taking so many cues from Apex already. I mean, I don't know, like, if someone went and counted the times that we've mentioned or, like, compared Battlefield 2042 to Apex, I think it'd be pretty up there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's something that they could definitely end up doing. I think there would be some backlash, but I ultimately, like, if it's 4 people in a squad, 3 people could be Graves, and then 1 Boris. You've got, like, you have if you placed them, you have a triangle of a point completely shielded from any kind of, like, grenades, any people coming up to you, you're gonna be pretty solid there.
Yeah, exactly. And even if, like, if you're playing with, say, 5 people and you've got, like, that 4 is one squad, and then there's another person that's just in another squad and they're playing as, like, Falk, for example, and they can just revive you from a distance. Like, it's gonna be interesting to see how they play that out. I think now that we say it, I actually think it would be probably better for the balancing if they actually do it the way that we're saying with like you can only pick one, because the other thing is like there's going to be 10 specialists and more after that. So if someone picks one character that you wanted to play, you've still got 9 to choose from. So there would definitely be backlash. I think a lot of people would be mad because they just want to play whoever. And I can definitely understand that. But if it's for the balancing, if it's like a really important aspect of the game, I think I'd be all for it.
Yeah, and it also help with the kind of story arc that they're trying to tell. Like, I think I know. I mean, friend of the podcast, Boomstick. He's voiced his concerns about how they are pushing the story, but it's also like there's going to be a lot of the same people running around on the map, so it kind of takes away from that aspect of it.
Yeah,
but Apex does something similar too, and they have a storyline. So it's kind of like the storyline hovers around these characters and gives you an idea of it. But like, I think there is an aspect of it too, that they could make it work with the story if it's kind of limited, and the amount of specialists that they're bringing is quite high too. So it's not like there's only going to be like 5. We're going to have a pretty hefty amount, and each season we're going to get some more too. So it's kind of like, okay, they're trying to think about it, but I think overall, like, he's looking pretty intense over there.
Yeah. I think in the end it will probably just be how it's always been. Like, you can just choose whichever. And then that's going to be interesting to see. I just hope that, I think if that is the case, they need to make sure that the balancing is as good as possible, which I'm sure they're already doing. But I have no doubt once they release the game, there'll be like a month or so where there'll be like a couple standouts, because no matter how much they test it, I think, and maybe the beta will help fix that, who knows, but I think once you've released it to so many people, it's like there's just always going to be stuff that's overpowered and stuff that's underpowered, and as long as they're quick about it, then that's all I care about. Because one thing, taking it back to Warzone again, one thing that has pretty much killed Warzone is that, like, there's stuff that's overpowered and that's fine, but they leave it like a month before they fix it. And there's been a few times when they've had really broken stuff and they fix it in like a couple of days, and that is really like how it should be, because if something's really beyond, just making the game broken, then I feel like you need to fix that quickly. So if there's imbalances in 2042, then that's fine. There's always going to be like stuff that's not balanced, but they just need to make sure that they stay on top of it, and also be, open and transparent and say, like, we know this guy's broken. We're trying to fix him at the moment. So as long as they're open about the communication and trying to get on top of it, then I think it'll be fine.
I think that's going to be the biggest thing with Battlefield 2042 is the importance of that communication. And like, DICE has struggled with it in the past for sure. They haven't always been the most vocal, but they've struck a balance pretty well with it. I just hope there's more. I mean, in the past, I have like personal thoughts on this. I don't think it should be on the developers themselves to be able taking it to their personal Twitter account to kind of tell everybody what's going on. I think it should come from that official account. I think Apex has done, like, mentioning Apex again, like Apex has done a really good job of, like, on their main accounts, you get all that information. While DICE, it's like we knew, while they're great people, Ben Walk, Dennis Branval, like they were the thread points, but it's kind of like this should honestly be on the main Twitter account so everybody knows what's going on. But I think that's a big point that they need to get better at, is that communication.
Yeah, that was one thing I always thought with Battlefront 2 as well, was like you said, Ben did an absolutely amazing job. He's probably one of the best community managers I've ever seen for a game, but it was just weird that he was tweeting it off his personal account, and it probably wasn't his decision. Like, that's probably what they just told him to do, but it also left him to get the backlash. Like, if someone didn't like what he said, he's getting abuse for it, rather than they can just tweet abuse at the EA Star Wars account, because that's, who cares? That's like, no one's really behind that. Like, there's obviously people who run it, but it's not a personal account. So That's also part of it. But then, yeah, like not everyone followed Ben, so people weren't really seeing the changes and stuff. And I think they need to sort of do better at that and make sure that, the official, maybe not for all the tiny little things, but for an official like update where there's a big balancing patch or whatever, they do need to tweet that off the actual main account so that people are seeing it and everyone has access to it, because it's easy for us because we kind of pay such close attention to it that we know all the, like, we're all
anyone
following
has EA
Freeman
Dice
and
in
Kevin and stuff. But yeah, everyone who follows the game, if they've got Twitter, they're probably following that account. So I think that's a good point, that they really need to just like sort of get on top of that a bit.
Yeah, kind of like professionalize it a little bit. Just saying, hey, this is the point. Yes, I do think that there is a place where the developers kind of give more details, but I don't think it should be like we're going to find out everything from Binwalk first, and then like a week later it's going to get posted to the official one. It's like, come on, like that speed and that efficiency on that main account needs to definitely be there.
Yeah, and I think they need to, like, they can tweet it and just have a very, I guess, they don't need to go into too much depth. Just tell us roughly what we're getting. And then from there, Freeman and Kevin can retweet it and add like actual depth to it and explain why they've done this and why they've done that. I think that's the best way of doing it, so that you're getting the official word out on the official account and everyone can see it. And then if they want more info, then they can go and follow those other guys who are just going to explain it a bit better, I guess.
Going back just a little bit, I want to get your thoughts on this. I know personally myself, I prefer it if they launch something maybe a little more overpowered and then they tone it down versus kind of launching something a little weaker. Because if you launch something overpowered, you're going to get a lot more people using it, a lot more data there, and then you can tone it back versus like, oh, this guy's super weak and then no one plays him, and then they try to buff him, but it doesn't really work.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. A lot of people tend to get, every gun that they release is overpowered, but I personally prefer that because, if I'm getting excited about a new gun that they're adding, I don't want to use it and it's terrible and then just not use it. So I'm fine with them being a bit overpowered for a week or two, especially just to help. Like, I'm not sure how it's going to work in 2042, but if we have to like level up weapons and stuff, then that also makes that better by making them a bit easier to level up and get those attachments and stuff. I'm fine with that as well. But just as long as they stay on top of it, really. And honestly, they could even just say that, like, come out and say, like, most of the guns we launch are going to be a bit strong, and then we'll tone them down. Like, as long as they say that, or at least, just stay on top of the communication and let us know that they'll nerf them, because I think a lot of people get, and understandably so, if there's a new gun and maybe you don't have access to the gun just yet, maybe it's in the battle pass and it takes like 2 hours of playing to unlock it or something, and you don't have it yet, then it's obviously understandably frustrating. But I'm on the same page. I think it's better to launch them overpowered than launch them underpowered, because it just lets everyone have a bit of fun with them for a while, and then once they bring them back down, it just feels like that's the better way to do it. And
I hope that let's talk a little bit about the beta. You mentioned it earlier. I think this beta is going to be very interesting and is going to bring a lot more. I think they're going to be taking a lot more information from this beta than they have in past ones, because kind of like, at least from my experience, and I think you definitely have a lot more experience in this than I do, of like playing those Battlefield betas. They kind of like, they do make some changes, but it's not as drastic as I think this one will be with how many specialists there are. Yeah,
it feels like in the past that a lot of the betas were literally just like a demo for us. It was more just like, the game's coming out in a month, you guys have fun and hopefully you enjoy it and buy the game. That's kind of what they felt like. Whereas this one, to me, does feel more like it's an actual playtest, because I think people are sold on the game. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of people. There will be some, of course, but I don't think the general fan base of Battlefield is playing the beta to see if they're going to buy it. I think most people have probably made their mind up already. So it does feel like it's going to be a bit more of that like data collection and getting everything balanced and stuff before the launch, because I think the launch is just so important to them that they probably want to focus a lot on the balancing, and if there's any drastic bugs in the beta, then obviously they need to get rid of those. So it does feel like this one's a bit more of a play test rather than just a early demo kind of thing.
Do you think that it will just be the main online experience, or do you think that we're going to have like a Battlefield Portal beta as well?
That's an interesting. I think probably just like going by the old ones, I'd say probably just like one map and one mode, or maybe two modes. But the other thing is that because they are probably going to be testing it, maybe they want to learn some things about Portal. So it's going to be, I haven't really thought about that too much, but I think if I had to guess, I would say it would just be like a regular multiplayer like experience. But it is, it's kind of interesting to think that if they're going to want data, then maybe they want that, because Portal's as much of a selling point as the actual game at this point. So maybe they want to test that and make sure that there's no like real bad bugs or anything. It might just be a scaled down version. Like there's no like we can't build the modes, but they've just set up like 10 modes or something like that. That's definitely a possibility, but it's kind of a hard one to think about really, because it depends how they approach the beta really. If it's just going to be like more of a demo, like we were saying, then it's probably just going to be the base mode. But if it is for a playtest and to get that data, then there's every chance we could get some Portal content.
I think it would be cool. But like you said, I think it would definitely be like maybe a handful of like their pre-made stuff. Maybe it's like Gun Master or like a team deathmatch, and you kind of have like different. Maybe you play one of 1942 with 1942 characters, and then maybe you do one with I don't know, maybe Battlefield 3. I think that could be something that they end up doing, but from the leaked playtest stuff, it was Orbital, I think is what we saw on that playtest. And it was just kind of one thing. They just wanted that information on the servers and crossplay, and they said, okay, we're just going to give you a little breakdown experience. I think we'll see something similar, like it's one mode and one map, or they're really highlighting that orbital map. So maybe that's something that they want to do further, or I don't think they would do the tornado yet. I think they're saving that for the main launch.
I feel like that's definitely getting saved for day one, because that's going to be like a crazy experience. And I think it would almost like, I don't want to see that in the beta. I want to be playing the game on launch day and streaming it, and we see the tornado for the first time. That's like kind of what I hope from that. So I think they'll, like you said, they'll probably do one mode and one map, but they'll probably even tone it down a bit as well, and not have the tornado, and maybe even like tone down the destruction a little bit as well, just because I feel like they're going to want everything to go as smooth as they can so that they can really get that data, rather than the possibility of like the destruction is just like making too many people's frames drop, and then they're not able to play properly, and then it's just affecting it too much. So I do think it'll be slightly toned down, and that's a good thing. As much as I would love to experience the full thing, I just want it to go smoothly. I want to get a full week of, playing the game and just seeing what it feels like. So I think it'll be slightly toned down for sure.
Yeah. It's also cool that we're going to be getting a whole week for this. I mean, in the past, we've usually gotten a weekend. Yeah,
I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like most of them have only been, like a weekend or maybe like 3 to 4 days. But I could be wrong on that. But I just remember Battlefield 1 playing Sinai Desert, and I feel like maybe I was working during the week and I couldn't play it or something, but I feel like I only got a few days to play it, so I really like sort of sunk my teeth in. But getting a whole week is definitely, that's exciting, because we don't have to rush. We can just play a few hours a day and sort of do it a bit more casually, rather than having to almost like grind the beta, but to try and play as much as we can.
I don't think that they'll do this, but what would be cool is if there was like stats that carried over to the beta, or it'd be cool if you could maybe get like because Battlefield usually hands out the medals, right? Like it'd be cool if you got a specific like exclusive beta medal, like if you played through the beta. it would carry over to the main game.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think they've done that in the past. I'm not sure if it went forward though, or if it went to the previous one. I know I've seen it playing Battlefield 1 recently, that people have like a Battlefield 5 beta sort of badge or tag or whatever. So yeah, but I'm not sure if I've seen it go forward. I'm not sure if I've seen like that in Battlefield 5, if that makes sense. So it would be cool to see that. I would love to. I think the badges and all that are such a awesome little feature that, like, if you get a cool, you know, for example, like the beta, or for the people who got the alpha playtest, for example, it'd be cool if they get to show that in game and stuff. So that would be pretty cool to see. But yeah, whether it happens or not, I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Give us all the details. Let someone flex on if they got in the playtest or not. We already know that most of them did because of all the leaks that are happening.
That's true.
So before we end this podcast, I want to talk about one thing that may change the game about this. We talked about this previously in an episode of the podcast, but we know more details around Call of Duty Vanguard. How do you think that's going to affect the game of Battlefield 2042?
If anything, it could be positive for the game, I think. I think Call of Duty always, like, it always just sells incredibly well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people seem hyped by it. I've seen a lot of, like, positive sort of thoughts on it. There's also been a lot of negatives too, because that's just the Call of Duty community. But, yeah, I think it seems like it'll do well, but for those who like modern games, like, there's going to be a lot of people, like, even just the other day when we were talking to Mark was saying he's not really a fan of, like, historical settings. He's more into the modern stuff. So if someone can only buy one game and they prefer modern, then that could work in the favor of 2042. And then for those who really do like World War II, well, 2042 has World War II as well. So I think, if anything, it's going to be a positive for the game, and I think it just depends how Vanguard goes, because it could be a really good game, but judging by the last Sledgehammer World War II game, which in my opinion is the worst Call of Duty ever made, then it could be a bit of a disaster too. So I think this one will be better because I've heard it's on the Modern Warfare engine, and I think they probably would have learnt their lesson a little bit from the last one. And the trailer looked alright. It didn't really do it for me personally. I wasn't like super excited by it, but it looked cool. It looked like it stuck to the World War II theme. Like, that's one thing that Battlefield 5 didn't do, was like, it didn't really feel like World War II, whereas that trailer looked like it was actually World War II. So
yeah, it's
going to be interesting to see. I think it'll definitely outsell Battlefield, unfortunately, but whether it's liked more, it's yet to be seen, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think,
that's anything, usually the case.
Yeah, I think that's the case where it sells less. But I feel like Battlefield is such a more like tight knit community where people, I don't know, people just tend to like. They're more passionate about it. I don't see that many people who are super passionate about Call of Duty. It's more just like a fun little arcadey game, whereas Battlefield, it's more like a genuine passion for a lot of people. So I think it'll be the same thing.
Or they're very passionate in the wrong ways.
Yeah, that's true.
So Westy, the man, the myth, the legend himself, posted this on Twitter, and I thought it was very interesting. And J-Dot had some very fascinating notes to add to it as well. But talking about the Battlefield 2042 trailer versus the Call of Duty Vanguard trailer, the 2042 trailer got 19 million views, 1.1 million likes, 88,000 comments, and it's been out for 73 days. Call of Duty Vanguard trailer has 18 million views, 125,000 likes, 22,000 comments, and it's been out for 2 days. And he asks, where is the Vanguard trailer getting views from, and how much, and how with so much less interaction? And J-Dod brings this up, and it's media spend. And Westy asks, is that industry speak for they're spending loads of money putting the trailer in front of eyeballs? And he says, yep, Activision ad spend is huge. Paid advertising views. If your video is used as an ad on YouTube, we may count views of your ad as views on your video. So that's kind of the hype, or at least kind of the larger numbers of views probably.
Yeah, I think, and that just kind of goes exactly into what we were just saying, where like the Battlefield trailer was getting views because it had so much interaction, so many people loved it, and everyone was doing reactions to it. So then people go watch the actual one. Whereas Call of Duty trailers always they get so many millions of views, but it's because they're advertised all over the place. Every time I watch a YouTube video, the ad that I get is the freaking trailer for Call of Duty. So I think, like J-Dod said, I think they just spend so much more, and that's probably why they sell more. I'd imagine they're a bigger company in terms of revenue than EA. I could be wrong, but I'd imagine they just pump in the money to Call of Duty because that's their thing, obviously.
Yeah.
And yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all that it's got more views, but technically it's not being like loved as much, I guess, because there's not as much interaction. If people really enjoy something, they'll leave comments and they'll leave likes. Whereas if you watch something and it's just like, yeah, that's all right, like you don't really tend to do it. So you can just tell by that the interaction ratio. The Battlefield one has definitely been, I guess, more well received than Vanguard.
And it's been more of a natural growth, so it's been more organic in the idea that we're all like super pumped and we're all involved in the community. We know when a Battlefield trailer drops and we all swamp towards it. Like I don't think I've personally ever been in, like, what I like to gauge like how much money companies have to advertise on things is, can I go to a Chili's restaurant or like an Applebee's or like one of those like chain sit down restaurants, and at the bar, have I ever seen a trailer for that game? I have seen so many Call of Duty trailers, but I've only seen like maybe one or two Battlefield trailers. So it's kind of like that's at least my test. Is kind of like, have I been sitting in a restaurant and at the bar have I seen a trailer for it?
They also they don't really do it in Australia, but I always see people sharing, like, they'll have a Mountain Dew and it's like got Call of Duty like sort of printing on it, and I've never seen that. I've probably never seen that for any game, let alone like Battlefield. But you can just tell that they really they want it to be, and it probably is at this point. They want it to be like a
have you seen it at Taco
name.
Bell?
So I think it's kind of weird that Battlefield doesn't try and do that a little bit more. But in saying that, I don't think they need to. I think the hype for this game has already sort of done what it needs to do. So if they wanted to, they could obviously try and go down that same path and really make it compete. But I don't think they really need to do that either. So it's just interesting to see how two competitors do the same thing so differently.
It's also indicative of the community. I'd say that now I would love to see the stats on this, but I think, at least in my circle of friends, the people that play like Call of Duty are more of like the casual isn't necessarily the term because they go hardcore in that game, but more casual in the terms of they play Call of Duty. Period. They don't play Call of Duty, Apex. They don't play like other games. Like they're either playing Call of Duty or they're not playing any other game.
Yeah. And I think for Battlefield, it's much more of a, like, general gamers tend to play it a lot more than just the hardcore Call of Duty players. So most people will play Battlefield, and then if there's a few months where it's a bit dry and we're waiting for the next season or whatever, those people might go play Apex, or they might even go back to playing Battlefront 2 or whatever. And you don't really see that as much, I feel, for Call of Duty. So it does have, like, say what you will about Call of Duty, I always have like criticisms for it, but it is a marketing, like, absolute titan, and then it gets people hooked in, and then it does have such a rabid, like, fan base that they just play it, and then they get the next one and they play it, and then they get the next one and they play it, and they don't really pay much attention to anything else because they love that game so much. So as much as the COD community can be a little bit like toxic and stuff, I think they are, in their own way, pretty passionate about it as well.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be very interesting to seeing these two gigantic games releasing a month apart. So we're getting Battlefield in October, and we're getting Call of Duty in November. And almost like a month apart from each other. Like usual, we have the October, November, December months be those gigantic AAA experiences always launch in those months. So it's kind of like, I mean, we saw this with Titanfall 2, where we had Titanfall 2, Battlefield 1, and Call of Duty all launch around the same time, and Titanfall 2 did not do well.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm worried about as a fan of Halo is that Halo might have that issue, because if it's going against, I think it's weird. Halo on Xbox is probably much bigger than Battlefield, but obviously Battlefield is like across all platforms. So probably Battlefield is bigger, and that makes me worried that, Halo might suffer a bit, unfortunately, which I hope isn't the case. But then again, Halo has such a dedicated fan base that I think it'll do fine. But
yeah, they're not going to have a co-op campaign or Forge at launch, so it's kind of like...
Yeah, that's a big loss to the game. So I think if I had to pick one of the three, because they're obviously the biggest three that are dropping, I think I would say that Halo, unfortunately, probably has to be the one that will not do as well. But in saying that, it is a exclusive game, so that kind of makes sense, I guess. But as long as it's not Battlefield, I don't care which one of them fails, as long as it's not Battlefield.
Yeah, we know which horse in this race we are rooting for. Yeah, but I'm so pumped for Battlefield and kind of seeing how it goes, because we have like we were talking about last week on the episode, like we were saying, honestly, there are going to be a lot of people that missed out on Battlefield 5 because they wanted that modern day experience or more modern day experience. So there was definitely a drop off of people, one from kind of just, it didn't really capture the World War II feel like it should have. And I think a lot of people were just itching for some more modern or near future setting.
Yeah, it's interesting how the two games kind of switch, and it's gone from one being modern and the other being World War II to now they've like flipped, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they like. I'm just as intrigued by the reaction to both games as I am for the actual games. Like, I'm really, really interested to see how Battlefield stands up and whether it can. Like I said, I don't think it'll outsell it, but how it can maybe get way better reviews, and maybe Call of Duty just has an off year, and that can help Battlefield. And then I think that would be a good thing for both games to have Battlefield kind of pushing Call of Duty even further, and they're getting really close, because then that just makes the next Call of Duty better, and then that makes the next Battlefield better. So I really do hope that for this time, I hope Battlefield really kicks it out the park, and then hopefully that leads to both games improving down the track.
I mean, competition is always better for the consumers. Yeah. I mean, let them fight it out, and then let's pick the one that's the best.
Yeah, exactly. It's a win for us, because we can just play both games and have fun on both, and they can let them have their little battle, and we can all, as fans, hopefully it will never happen, because there's always the little beef between communities, but it'd be good to see the fans just not really caring and getting along and enjoying both games, and then the two actual companies sort of going at each other. It'd be fun to see.
Exactly. I mean, that's the ultimate situation. Like, I love Call of Duty. I love Battlefield. I enjoy both of them. I'm a recent convert to Call of Duty, but I do enjoy both of them. And I think they both have their successes and they both have their faults. But ultimately, the fact that we have, dude, this year is going to be so good for shooters.
Yeah, this is probably going to be one of the biggest years in recent memory, I think, for shooters.
We've had really interesting things like Splitgate, which has been really fun to see how that game's been going. We've got Halo. We've got the stuff that Apex has been doing. We've got